Last summer, I went to my usual lakeside cabin. I was 35 years old and needed a break from the city. I'm a landscape architect, and I love to take photos of nature. When I arrived, the sun was setting over the lake. Everything looked so calm and perfect, but that peace didn't last long. As night fell, I noticed how quiet it was. I went outside to take some photos, but I kept catching shapes in the trees. It was just shadows, I thought. I tried to brush it off and went back inside. I made dinner, but the quiet felt unsettling. I heard strange crackling noises coming from the woods. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up, but I convinced myself it was just the wind. Eventually, I tried to sleep, but my stomach was in knots. The next day, I went hiking to clear my head. The woods were thick, and every little noise startled me. Then I found an old photograph on the ground. A group of smiling people stared back at me, faces I didn't recognize. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I took a picture of it anyway. That night, the shadows came back. I stood at the window, peering out into the darkness. My heart raced when I thought I saw a figure by a tree. It was still and quiet. I called out but got no response. I blinked hard, but the figure didn't disappear. Each night grew worse. I heard rustling and whispers that floated into the cabin. I found more photographs, each one showing unfamiliar faces all looking directly at me. I felt watched. I couldn't shake the feeling that the cabin hid something dark. On the last night, fear grabbed me. I stood in front of the window again. I saw something dark moving closer from the trees. I felt cold and couldn't move. I wanted to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. Then, the figure turned its head toward me. I stood there, paralyzed. I was terrified. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Then I heard a voice, soft and eerie, whispering, "You really shouldn't have come here." I stumbled back and looked around, and just like that, the figure disappeared. Silence filled the room, like nothing ever happened. But I knew what I saw. I was left alone with the creeping dread, wondering if I would ever feel safe in that cabin again. I packed up my things in the morning, but the images haunted me. What happened last summer? Were those just shadows, or was there something more? I didn't know. The photographs still puzzle me, and I think back to that whisper, wondering if it was a warning I should have listened to. I won't forget. As I drove back to the city, the weight of the cabin lingered in my thoughts. I tried to shake off the unease, but those photographs haunted me. Once home, I couldn't resist the urge to look at them again. I spread them out on my coffee table, the unfamiliar faces staring back at me. One photograph caught my eye. It was different. The background showed the lake, but the trees looked oddly distorted. I felt like they were reaching toward the people in the picture. I thought maybe if I showed it to someone, I'd get answers. I decided to visit a local historian who knew about the area. I arrived at the historian's house just as the sun began to set. He was an older man with gray hair and thick glasses. As I explained my story, he listened intently, his expression shifting from casual interest to concern. "These photographs," he said, glancing at them. "They look familiar. There were rumors about that area. Strange occurrences. Disappearances. People crossing paths with things they shouldn't." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean? What happened?" He looked down, hesitating. "A long time ago, some families settled around that lake. But one by one, they vanished. No trace left behind. And others who tried to explore the woods sometimes don't return." My heart raced. I wanted to ask about the photographs, but he seemed lost in thought. Finally, he continued, "If you find their faces, you might understand what happened." I couldn't shake the fear gnawing at me. I needed to know more, so I pressed for details about the families, but he just shook his head. "Digging too deep can stir things up. Not everyone who wanders in these woods returns whole. Proceed with caution. I left his house shaken. What had I stumbled into? I kept thinking about that whisper, and now the historian's warning loomed over me. I needed to piece this together, but where do I even start? That night at home, I arranged the photographs again. Flicking on my laptop, I began searching for information about the families who used to live by the lake. As the hours dragged on, I hit a dead end, my eyes heavy with fatigue. Just as I was about to close my laptop, something caught my attention: a personal blog post about a local legend concerning the lake. Reading it sent shivers down my spine. The writer claimed the shadows in the woods were spirits, guardians of secrets long forgotten. Something about the post felt dangerous, almost like a warning. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered and died, plunging me into an eerie darkness. I held my breath. A sense of dread washed over me as I felt the familiar chill creeping down my spine. I grabbed my phone, turning on the flashlight. That's when I heard a faint whisper echoing from behind me, "You shouldn't have come back." I froze, the whisper curling around me like smoke. I turned slowly, heart racing. The beam from my phone cut through the darkness, revealing only familiar furniture and the scattered photographs. My sense of reality felt twisted. I stepped back, expecting to find someone lurking just beyond the light. No one was there. Just silence. That I accessed my laptop again despite my unease. The blog post still glowed on the screen. The author had detailed the history of the families but said little about the legends. I needed to learn more. Suddenly, another thought struck me. What if the historian had more information? I hardly wanted to see him again, but the urgency pulled me back toward the truth. Late next morning, I drove over to his house, unease settling in my stomach like a rock. He opened the door, clearly surprised to see me again. "Back already?" "Yeah. You told me about the families, but I need more details. I think there is something specific about those photographs." He let out a sigh. "I can't help you. I warned you. Curiosity doesn't end well." "Please," I insisted. "I heard whispers last night. Something is going on, and I can't ignore it." His eyes narrowed. "Whispers? That is new. It means you've drawn their attention. I can't help you, but if you really want to know, you should explore the woods by the lake at dusk. That is when these events are most potent." "Explore?" I echoed, dread creeping in. "What if I get lost like the others?" He was silent for a moment, then said, "That's a risk you must accept." Frustration bubbled within me. I didn't want to venture back, but a part of me felt a magnetic pull. As I left, I realized the old man might hold the key to everything. I had to make a choice: continue searching and face the unknown, or leave it all behind. That I drove back home and began to prepare. My instincts screamed at me to stop, but I couldn't. I packed a small backpack with essentials before heading to the lake. The thought of what might lie ahead filled me with both dread and determination. As dusk set in, I walked into the woods. The trees loomed overhead, casting long shadows on the path. Every sound felt amplified, every rustle in the leaves sending tremors through me. I felt lost, wandering deeper into the woods with each step. Then, just as I reached a clearing near the water, I heard it again. "You shouldn't have come back." The voice was clearer this time, almost melodic, echoing off the trees. That I turned around, scanning the shadows. There was someone moving just at the edge of my flashlight's beam. I blinked and squinted, but it vanished. My heart raced. I was not alone. That I needed answers. Then I noticed something on the ground. A piece of fabric, torn and dirty, with a pattern that looked oddly familiar. I realized it matched one of the photographs. The fear that gripped me was now mixed with a burning need to understand what had happened. That's when I saw it. In the distance, just a few yards away, a figure stood silhouetted against the water's surface. It looked like one of the faces from the photographs. My mind was racing. Could this be one of the lost families? What now? I took a hesitant step forward, curiosity overcoming my fear. The figure stood still, its outline barely visible against the dim light reflecting off the lake. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaky but determined. There was no reply, just the soft lapping of water against the shore that I moved closer, careful not to make any sudden movements. The figure seemed to flicker, like a flame about to be snuffed out. I squinted harder, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, but it was like staring at a mirage. The whispers returned, swirling around me like leaves caught in a gust of wind. "You're not supposed to be here," they hissed. "Leave now, while you still can." Ignoring the voice, I focused on the figure. I could almost make out a face, but it morphed in and out of focus. Then, it turned slightly, revealing a haunting smile that chilled me to the bone. It was the same smile from the photograph frozen in time, poignant and eerie. "Who are you?" I shouted, but my words felt swallowed by the darkness. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it took a small step toward me, and I felt a cold wind rush past, sending shivers down my spine. Then my heart raced as I glanced around. The woods felt alive, the trees closing in as if they were witnesses to this strange encounter. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I couldn't tear my gaze away from the figure. I had come so far, and I needed answers. "Please, tell me what happened," I pleaded. "Why were you in those photos?" The figure's smile faded, replaced by an expression of sadness. For a moment, I thought I saw a glimmer of recognition in its eyes. But then, just as quickly, it flickered again and started to dissolve into the shadows. Panic surged through me. "No!" I shouted, lunging forward. I reached out, grasping at smoke, but my fingers met nothing but the chill of the evening air. The figure was gone. That I stumbled back, disoriented. The whispers grew louder, drowning out any coherent thought. "You mustn't stay. You don't belong," they echoed, blending into the rustle of the trees. I turned and sprinted back toward the path, scrambling over roots and fallen branches. My flashlight flickered as if the battery was dying, plunging me into near darkness. I felt the presence behind me cold, watching, then something caught my foot, and I fell hard to the ground. Grunting in pain, I scrambled to my feet, survival instincts kicking in. I had to get out before whatever that was found me. Just then, I felt something brush against my cheek. I swung my flashlight, illuminating a pale hand reaching out from behind a tree, fingers splayed like it was beckoning me closer. The breath caught in my throat as I realized it was not a mirage. It was real. That I turned to run, but my footing slipped again, my heart pounding in my chest as I struggled to find balance. In that instant of vulnerability, I heard the voice once more, louder than ever. "You need to know the truth." I couldn't think. I was engulfed in fear as I tried to push myself back up. Whatever this was, it was closing in, and I was running out of time. I burst through the undergrowth, branches scratching at my arms. My heart raced, pounding hard against my ribs. I could still feel that cold presence hovering just behind me, urging me to keep moving. The flashlight flickered again, and I squeezed it tighter, willing it to stay lit. That I finally reached the path, gasping for air. But the moment I stepped onto it, a deep dread settled over me. The whispers were still there, swirling in my ears, but they had changed. They were no longer urging me to leave, now, they were calling for me. "Come back, you need to know." I shook my head, trying to block them out. I took a few steps forward, but something from the path ahead caught my eye, a shimmer in the darkness. I hesitated, my instincts warning me again, telling me to keep running. But something pulled me in. As I drew closer, I saw it, an old locket lying in the dirt, glowing faintly beneath the beam of my flashlight. My hands trembled as I crouched down to pick it up. The surface was cold, and as I opened it, there inside were two tiny photographs, one of the figure by the lake and another of a woman whose features were strikingly familiar. A chill ran down my spine. The woman in the photograph had the same haunting smile. The resemblance was uncanny, almost like looking into a mirror. I flipped the locket over to inspect the other side, and there was a name inscribed in elegant script. It read, Elena. Suddenly, a crackle of energy surged through the air. I could feel something shift behind me, and instinctively, I turned. The figure was back, clearer this time, standing at the edge of the trees. Its gaze was intense, holding a mixture of desperation and urgency. Elena. I whispered, shocked at the realization, but before I could call out, the figure lifted a hand towards me, and I was overcome with a sense of urgency. It stepped forward, the shadows around it spilling like ink against the trees. I could feel its sadness, like a heavy weight pressing down on me. Follow, it mouthed, as the whispers grew louder and more insistent, merging with the rustling leaves that I hesitated but looked at the locket clutched tightly in my palm. I needed to know. If this was Elena, then maybe she had answers. With a deep breath, I pushed past the doubt and started toward her. As I approached, the figure turned and began to drift deeper into the woods. The whispers transformed into a chant, echoing my thoughts. You must remember, each step felt heavier. The trees seemed to lean in closer, their gnarled branches stretching out like fingers, grasping at my resolve. This couldn't end well. I was going further into the darkness, but Elena was waiting for me. I had to know why she looked so familiar. Then, everything went black. The world around me vanished as an unyielding shadow swallowed me whole. I couldn't tell if I had passed out or crossed some unseen threshold. All I knew was that I was no longer alone. Footsteps echoed ahead, and the air became thick with an otherworldly presence. I had stumbled into something much bigger and far more dangerous than I ever anticipated. I stumbled through the darkness, my feet unsteady on a surface that felt foreign beneath me. I squinted, trying to make out what lay ahead, but it was like peering into a black void. The air was thick, almost suffocating, heavy with the scent of damp earth and something metallic. Elena? I called out, though my voice quivered, almost lost in the silence. No response came, just the echo of my own fear. Suddenly, a flicker of light caught my attention, a soft, pulsing glow shimmering in the distance. I forced myself to move toward it, the darkness clawing at my back, urging me to turn around. But I couldn't go back now. I had to find her. As I stepped closer, the glow solidified into a scene that made my breath hitch. It was a clearing, illuminated by a ring of soft, ethereal light. In the center stood a large, ancient tree, its gnarled branches reaching out like twisted arms. The tree felt alive, pulsating with energy. I hesitated, scanning the area for any signs of danger. That's when I saw it. A figure, almost transparent, floated close to the tree. It was hard to make out details, but my heart recognized the silhouette. It was her, Elena. She reached out toward me, her expression a mix of relief and longing. You found me, she whispered, the words barely making it through the thick air. Why did you disappear? What happened to you? I cried, desperate for answers, but before she could respond, a sudden gust of wind swirled around us, ripping through the clearing. The whispers returned with a vengeance, now frantic and chaotic. Leave. You don't belong here. Leave. The wind almost knocked me off my feet, and I stumbled backward, fear tightening like a vice around my chest. I felt trapped, caught between Elena and whatever force was trying to push me away. No. I need to understand. I yelled, trying to reclaim my voice above the chaos. Elena's face twisted in anguish, her hand dropping helplessly to her side. You must discover the truth. Only then can I be free. Before I could ask what she meant, the ground beneath me trembled. From the shadows, other figures emerged, silent, desperate faces that surrounded the perimeter of the clearing, their eyes wide and pleading. They looked just as lost as Elena, their forms flickering like embers about to go out. I felt their sorrow wash over me, and I realized that their stories were tangled with hers. Worst of all, I sensed a greater danger looming, one that thrived on the fear swirling around us. With a sudden surge of determination, I took a step forward. I'll help you. But first, you need to tell me what happened. But the moment I spoke, a deafening roar echoed through the trees. A dark figure emerged, larger than the rest, its presence suffocating. It was an entity of shadows and despair, eyes reflected like shards of glass. I froze, fear gripping my heart. A new realization hit me, I was in more danger than I had ever imagined. The whispers turned to screams, overwhelming my senses. Then, with a jolt of clarity, I understood. I needed to remember. I needed to uncover what tied me to this place, or we could all be lost forever. The roar faded, but its echoes lingered in my ears, haunting and relentless. The dark figure loomed closer, and my instincts screamed for me to run. But where? There was nowhere to go. The clearing closed in, its ring of light feeling dangerously fragile. Stay back. I shouted, trying to find courage in my voice, but it came out as a hoarse whisper. Elena's face changed. She seemed to bend under the weight of the shadow, her figure flickering. You can't give in to fear. She urged, her eyes glimmering with an intensity one had never seen before. I swallowed hard, adrenaline surging through me. What do I need to do? I asked, searching her face for a map through the chaos. Remember, she said again, urgency sparking her words. Think back to last summer. Suddenly, memories surged forward, my family's cabin, the laughter, lazy evenings by the fire. I had nearly forgotten the sense of comfort it had brought. Then the abrupt turn of events, the storm, the darkness, and Elena's frantic calls. I shivered at the thought of the storm now swirling in front of me, a storm fueled by something sinister. I can't piece this together. I shouted, desperation creeping in. What are these shadows? The dark figure advanced, absorbing the light around it. I felt the warmth of the ethereal glow wane, leaving me cold and exposed. Elena's expression shifted to determination. You have to confront it. Draw the light from within you. Draw the light? I echoed, but how? All I felt was terror. As if sensing my thoughts, the figure paused, and I felt drained, like the energy in the clearing was being siphoned away. I closed my eyes, searching internally. What light? I didn't even know there was any left. Then it struck me, Elena. I had to hold on to the memories of her laughter, her warmth, all the moments we shared. I focused on that brightness, the love that tied us together, the bond that transcended the darkness. Closing in, with newfound resolve, I opened my eyes, allowing the memories to swell inside me. I am not afraid. I shouted, pouring my belief into the air like a tangible force. For a moment, the shadows recoiled, flickering as if unsure. Suddenly, a radiant beam erupted from within me, illuminating the clearing, pushing back the darkness. The figures surrounding us erupted in quiet gasps, their expressions shifting from anguish to awe. But the dark entity didn't retreat for long. It drew back briefly, but I knew that it would not allow itself to be defeated so easily. Just before it lunged forward again, I sensed something ominous, an even deeper realization that I had uncovered the fragility of light, but I had also awakened something within the depths of that darkness. It was only the beginning. A far greater danger was watching, and I couldn't afford to let my guard down. And then, as the shadows loomed again, I heard the whispers peak in intensity. You cannot escape. My heart raced. I had to find the truth. But what truth awaited me in this tangled web of fear and despair? The darkness surged once more, pressing against my newly forged light. I could feel its cold grip clawing at my resolve. What do we do now? I turned to Elena, desperation flooding my voice. In that moment, her eyes shone brighter. We fight back together. Channel your strength into the light. I nodded, hoping I had the power within me. I focused my energy, recalling every shared moment with Elena, the quiet laughter, the secrets whispered by the fire. We had overcome challenges before, this was just another one. With each heartbeat, my light expanded, spilling into the clearing. The shadows writhed, twisting and coiling in response. But as the darkness pulled away, I caught a glimpse of something else lurking beneath a glimmer of eyes, watching, waiting. Panic surged. "Elena, there is something else!" I shouted, pointing into the depths of the shadow. "Look!" Before she could reply, the dark figure charged forward. I barely had time to react. I felt the air swirl, a vortex tugging at my very core. The light I had summoned flickered with intensity, and I fought to keep it stable. I couldn't let it go out. "Breathe!" Elena shouted, gripping my arm tightly. "Focus on us, not just the light. We're stronger together." I felt her presence beside me, like a lifeline anchoring me. "Together." I echoed, the fear threatening to drown me slowly receding. I closed my eyes, breathing deeply, channeling everything into our connection. Suddenly, the light became blinding, filling the entire clearing, then there was a crack, a loud sound shattering the air like glass. The dark figure halted, momentarily stunned. I opened my eyes, realizing that the shadows around us were beginning to reveal something hidden, a landscape distorted by fear, locked away in darkness. What is this?" I stammered. Elena peered closer, her face unreadable. "I don't know. But it feels familiar, like something from that storm last summer." The shadows pulsed harder, wrapping themselves tighter around us, trying to reclaim their hold. I glanced around, searching for a sign, a clue that could help us decipher this chaos. That's when I saw it, an old wooden sign, barely illuminated by our glow. The words were barely legible: "Beware the dark whispers of those who lost their way." "What does that mean?" I murmured, sending a glance at Elena. She looked just as perplexed. "I don't know, but I have a feeling it's not just about us," she replied. "Could these shadows be lost souls?" Before I could respond, the shadows surged again, more aggressive than before. The whispers returned, growing louder, almost deafening. They were no longer just taunts, they were desperate cries, pleading to be heard. Suddenly, a shape materialized from the depths, a figure cloaked in darkness, eyes glowing like embers. "You seek the truth, and yet you stand upon the edge of the unknown," it rasped, its voice echoing around us, cold and devoid of compassion. "What do you want?" I demanded, my voice trembling yet defiant. Its laughter rang hollow, reverberating in the cold air. "To show you the depths of your fear. Are you ready for what you might discover?" My heart pounded in my chest. I was about to find out just how deep the darkness ran. I could feel the weight of the shadows closing in, but I also felt the light within me like a flickering candle refusing to be snuffed out. "Together!" Elena shouted, pulling me back to the present. Then I realized I had no choice. I had to confront the truth waiting at the heart of the darkness. The dark figure loomed closer, its embers burning through the shadows, and I felt a jolt of fear shoot through me. "What do you mean by the depths of our fear?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. It tilted its head, the shadows rippling around it like a dark cloak. "You'll see," it rasped, and with one swift motion, it thrust its arm forward. Instantly, the clearing shifted, the ground trembling beneath our feet. A swirling mist engulfed us, and I clutched Elena's hand tighter. The light we had created flickered again. "Hold on!" I shouted, squeezing her palm, praying she could feel my strength. The mist cleared as quickly as it had come, revealing a scene that made my stomach drop. A cabin appeared, familiar yet distorted, its windows dark like empty eyes. It looked just like the one we stayed at last summer, the one full of laughter and memories. "This is where it all began," Elena murmured, her voice trembling. "But why?" I replied, eyes widening at the sight before us. The cabin seemed trapped in a loop of past moments, flickering between laughter and shadows. We were pulled forward, as if the memories were magnetic. I could hear echoes of our voices, mixed with something else, a low, haunting whisper weaving through the air. It sent chills down my spine. "Elena, we need to break this," I declared, feeling sweat bead at my brow. The whispers grew louder, pressing against my thoughts. Panic gripped me. This isn't just a memory, it's trying to pull us in. She looked at me, determination in her eyes. No. We focus on the light. We push back. We stood together, channeling our combined strength into a radiant glow. But as the light expanded, the whispers sharpened, filling the air with pleading cries. Help us. They begged. Who are you? I yelled, disoriented by the emotions swirling through the shadowy memories. Faces flickered at the edges of my vision, people I didn't recognize, their mouths moving, but no words came out. Then the figure emerged again from the mist. Those who have lost their way cannot find peace. They linger here, searching for something that isn't lost. Why are they here? I asked, anger and fear mixing in my voice. What do they want? They seek understanding, it responded. You carry their burden. Seek the truth behind the laughter. Only then can you free them and yourselves. I faltered, the weight of its words pressing heavily on my chest. I glanced back at the cabin. Memories began to resurface, but they were different now, flashes of shadows in the corners, whispers I had ignored, moments of unease I thought I'd forgotten. Those memories, I realized, they aren't just joy. There was something else. Elena's grip tightened. What are you saying? I think we covered something up, I whispered, dread creeping into my voice. Something we didn't want to see. The darkness responded to our hesitation, thickening around us, urging us to confront the truth. I felt the panic rising again as the whispers turned sharper, accusing and desperate. Then, the shadows shifted once more, and I felt as if we were being pulled deeper into the very memories we longed to escape. What if we can't handle it? I said, my voice strained. The figure loomed larger, mocking our fear. Are you ready to face the truth, or will you remain lost in fear? The choice is yours. I looked at Elena, who nodded fiercely. I could see her own hesitation, but her resolve sparked something in me. Let us go. I shouted, and together we took a step forward into the swirling darkness, ready to uncover the memories that still haunted us. But as we crossed the threshold, everything went dark. When the darkness pulled away, I found myself back outside of the cabin just as it had appeared during that last haunting summer. The sun was setting again, but this time the colors in the sky were muted, like dusk was washing everything in shades of gray. I felt disoriented, yet somehow free from the weight of the past. The cabin stood silent, watching, as if it remembered everything that had unfolded. Elena wasn't beside me, but I could sense her lingering presence, a reassuring warmth amidst the overwhelming chill. I glanced around, a mix of fear and anticipation swirling in my chest. Had we really managed to escape? I half expected the shadows to spring back to life, to reclaim the space we had fought to gain. That I approached the cabin cautiously, every step heavy with the memories I'd buried. The door creaked as I pushed it open, revealing dim light filtering in through the dusty windows. The air smelled familiar, like old wood and forgotten dreams. The photographs lay scattered on the floor, moodily illuminated by the sunset. Each face in those images stared back with a curious familiarity that felt unnerving. In the bustle of my thoughts, I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. A photo slipped from the pile, revealing a snapshot I hadn't seen before. The background was a shimmering lake, and as I moved closer, I saw it. Elena stood among the people I now recognized. They were smiling, but their eyes seemed to tell a different story, one filled with longing and sorrow. Memories flooded back, raw images I had tried to ignore. The storm, the whispers, words echoing in the depths of the woods, alone yet haunted. I could see flashes of joy from that summer spent at the cabin, intertwined with echoes of unease that had clung to each shared laugh like an unseen shadow. The darkness had always been a part of it, waiting just beneath the surface. I took a steadying breath, ready to confront my own fears. There had to be a way to piece it all together, to connect the missing fragments. Perhaps the mysterious historian had been right. These faces were the key to understanding everything. I stepped back outside, taking the photographs with me, and sat on the porch, hearts pounding. As I scoured the images, searching for clues hidden within their frames, the sun dipped lower, casting longer shadows. The whispers returned, soft at first, but growing more urgent. You must remember. You must remember what happened. But that voice, it didn't feel threatening anymore, merely insistent. And amid all that chaos, I could almost feel Elena's presence guiding me, whispering encouragement. I clenched my fists, focusing on those fragments of joyful moments, that when I saw it. One of the photos had a date scribbled on the back, August 7, 1983. My heart raced. It was the day before my family had first arrived at the cabin. It linked us, the key to the last summer's dark events. I hadn't just come across strange photographs, I had encountered pieces of someone else's story and, in a way, my own. Walking back to the car with purpose, a heaviness settled over me. I would need to return to the historian once again. The lingering questions still hung in the air like remnants of fog. How many had disappeared into the woods? What had pulled them to that darkness? The answers swirled at the edge of my mind, but time had grown short. As I stepped onto the path leading away from the cabin, I couldn't shake the feeling it had granted me what I sought, but at a price. I knew now that the connections ran deeper than I realized, entangled in a web of memories and unspoken truths. I couldn't turn my back on the answers I had yet to uncover. I wouldn't forget what I had found there, the shadows, the light, and ultimately, the truth. Yet, I also couldn't ignore the uncertainty looming above them all. Back in the car, I glanced back at the cabin, now bathed in twilight. I still felt uncertain about what awaited me, but as I drove off, I carried both light and shadow within me. As I ventured toward the unknown, I resolved not to let fear decide my path. I had come too far not to seek the truth, even if it dragged me back to the very darkness I had fought so hard to escape. And as the road stretched ahead, questions lingered unanswered. Why did those echoes still haunt me? Were the shadows truly gone, or was I merely an unwitting vessel for the stories left unfulfilled? With every mile covered, I felt it, the weight of silence ahead.